This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Ira, how are you doing, sir? Very, very interesting press conference yesterday.
And very interesting times for the Heat. I totally agree with that, Big O.
Yes, and I was proud of it because it has to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
It's an elephant in the room. You can't keep selling to your season ticket holders that your players aren't, and especially your stars, not going to be available. I'm sure it's not about just us media members. It's about a lot of season ticket holders and sweet season ticket holders that have probably pulled people aside in that building and said, hey, what the hell is going on here? I'm spending a lot of money and I'm not getting the entertainment that I paid for. And this has become a problem, not just in your regular season standings, but part of your business. And it's interesting when Dave followed up, because Riley started his opening comment talking about, because I've said it, the culture has taken a hit. It has eroded some, because as much as we thought Jimmy was part of this culture, he's also killing it, because part of this culture is everybody working at its best every day of the year, period. And so that's changed. And when I know Hyde followed up on it, he first denied it, but then he kind of admitted that, hey, this is something we've got to address and got to talk about. So I'm glad that they're addressing the obvious problem right now that is going on, because it isn't Heat culture what you're displaying out there for 82 games in the last two regular seasons.
I thought that was Pat Riley's best postseason press conference in a decade, going back to smiling faces and hidden agendas. And the difference was, for people who aren't old enough, that was in 2014 when LeBron James was debating leaving, when the Heat was willing to do anything and everything to keep him, including drafting the player he wanted, Shabazz Napier out of Connecticut, including spending their exception money ahead of free agency, granted on Danny Granger and Josh McRoberts, but players they thought could complement LeBron, and then LeBron walked out the door anyway. The difference that year, Pat Riley had no control. LeBron James was an impending free agent, could do whatever he wants, had the world as his oyster. Jimmy Butler's still under contract. Pat Riley can still trade him. Pat Riley still controls the strings for a potential extension. So he made his thoughts clear. It was really interesting, the difference when Pat doesn't hold the cards and Pat does hold the cards. But for all these people, and I think this is important, Big O, who speak about Pat getting older, he's 79 years old, he controlled that room as if he was 69 or 59 or was on that cruise ship when he arrived with Mickey Harrison in 1995. He still showed, I can dictate the course here. I know what I stand for. I know what I'll accept, and I know what I won't. Strongest performance by a leading actor in the Miami Heat in 10 years in a Pat Riley press conference.
Yeah, and so clearly the line in the sand has now been drawn by Pat Riley, talking about the extension. Like, no, dude, we don't have to talk about that for a year. And that's basically, there will be no extension this offseason because they want to see, apparently he said they had a conversation last year with the agent about games played, and apparently that didn't work. And so it looks like to me, Jimmy can ask, because you then asked that question about, well, what about if he asks for that extension? What are you going to do? And it's, well, hey, I need a commitment. So this year is going to be about, the late great Mad Dog would say, well, it looks like he wants Jimmy Butler from the state of Missouri, the show me state. Is, that's the thing that Mad Dog's line would always be. Well, then I think he wants Jimmy Butler to show him that he's actually committed before the Heat is actually going to commit.
And again, there are two deadlines there, or an entry point in the deadline. July 7th, 12:01 a.m. is when LeBron James can receive an extension. June 30th, 2025 is the deadline for giving that extension. Nothing changes on the money, whether it's done July 7th, whether it's done June 30th a year from now. It still kicks in an extra year to his contract. Pat Riley, we have time. Player wants the money. The agent did what I'd expect any agent to do. He will ask at 12:01 a.m. for an extension and let him know that Jimmy will be upset if he doesn't get it. That's what an agent does. Whether it's Bernie Lee, Jimmy's agent, whether it's Drew Rosenhaus for half of the Dolphins roster, that's what an agent does and should do. The difference is we have a player here with a history of when he's not happy, he's even less of a player than he can be other times. And Big O, you just spoke about culture. Do you want your culture having to deal with that for another 11 months? You can say the culture is strong. It's across our chest in the uniform. It's across the court. We are who we are. But you know, Big O, that things get in the way. That when you have
you can't fold Ira. You can't give him the extra year when he doesn't deserve it.
And that's fine, Big O, but are you willing to deal with the consequences, or do you move off the player? See, I disagree. I think you're more likely to move off the player.
Ira, you're a year late on this one already. Okay? I would have traded his ass last year.
Live in the moment, Big O. Let's live in the moment.
I was way on record on that shit already. I told everybody you should have traded him last year.
Live in the moment.
Pat Riley and the rest of you all are way behind me, just like X-Man. You know, the fans did the same shit to me. 3 years ago when he had the 10 interceptions, I told Dolphin fans, now's the time to trade him. Now, no, we can't do that. No, you're a hater. No, I'm not a hater. I see the writing on the wall. You got to pull a Belichick. You got to get off the gravy train at the right time. The man had 7 interceptions in the following 3 seasons. I think I was right. And last year, you should have traded his ass after that last run. But you hung on, and look at what's going on with the body. The guy did not play last year. What'd you expect him to do? And here's the thing. Now you're in a brutal position. This is an exploding cigar, Ira.
Nope.
Oh no, yes it is.
Nope.
Oh yes it is. Here it is. I already predicted the exploding cigar last year. I'm going to predict it again this year. Now you're in a catch-22. You can't offer him an extra year because that would set a terrible example for your franchise. That's not heat culture. Plus, he hasn't played in the regular season the last 2 years, burying you in the standings. So you got to make him play out. And if he gets pissed off, then you need to part ways. But the problem is, if he sits there with his agent now and says, oh, I promise that I'm going to play, just give me the extension. The real problem we have now is Jimmy Butler can no longer sign the checks because his ego is trying to cash checks that his body can't. He no longer see. Here's the difference now. I believe that Jimmy Butler is done. His body is cooked. So if the Heat want him to play every day, there's no way he could ever do that. And he knows it because if he plays every day, he will break down and he will prove to the Heat that he can't get that contract. So we are headed for a showdown. We are headed for problems with Riley and Jimmy. And Riley is the first guy that drew the gun finally. So I think we're headed for a load of shit, whether you want it or not, because Jimmy Butler's body no longer can get it done on a consistent basis.
Big O, when's the next date that the Miami Heat play a game that matters? Roughly calendar-wise. When's the next day the Miami Heat play a game that matters? October, November, right, start of the season. Here's my point. I'm going to take your exploding cigar analogy and turn it instead to one of those fuses that's burning toward the explosion.
Okay.
There's still time. And I believe there's still a market because the one thing the NBA has shown, desperation forces teams to take chances they might not otherwise.
Okay.
The 76ers held a press conference yesterday, said we need a player who can produce in the playoffs, who is a proven wing. Hello. I believe Pat Riley's going to let this simmer. He's going to see how it plays out. He's going to go by body language. He's going to go by comments by his player at the Grand Prix of Miami or the next major media event when TMZ corners him, what he says about the Heat. And if he has to, he trades him. The Miami Heat, Pat Riley, Mickey Arison, Nick Arison, Andy Ellisberg, Eric Spoelstra will not allow this to fester. They have seen unhappy players. They have moved unhappy players.
Anytime.
Shaquille O'Neal, the year after everything went fine, playoff crash and burn, you're going to Phoenix. We'll deal with Sean Marion, Jermaine O'Neal. We'll get this boat. We'll get this ship back on course. We've done it before. We can do it again. We found a way to get rid of Dion Waiters. We found a way to get rid of James Johnson. We will find a way. I think if we're talking about our sort of our bingo card, and one of your bingo card squares is extension. Don't think you're going to have to put your little blotter there for that. Don't think that's going to happen. But if one of your bingo cards says trade, to me, that's like the X in the middle of the bingo card. I think that's the most likely outcome here. I think Pat Riley greased the skids. And I'll tell you what, Big O, if they were not thinking about trades, Pat would not have taken that approach. And what everyone is getting wrong from the quote yesterday, when he says, when the question was, are you willing to trade Barry Jackson? He said, no.
Barry. And he says, no.
Pause.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Of course not.
Now, I don't need him to make a trade.
Listen, I tweeted out right away from that. It was like, what's he going to say? Yes, and create a big.
But he even added a qualifier there. He didn't just say abject no, and I dare you to try to catch me in this being wrong. He put a qualifier in. He says, no, not as of now, not right now. I don't need Pat to make a trade on May 6th or May 7th or June 7th or July 7th or August 7th. There is plenty of time. Hell, we learned last year Dame Lillard didn't happen until on the eve of the season. You can always make a deal when you need to, when you have to. The Heat will monitor the situation. Now, here's the other part of it. I don't expect this to happen. It also could play out this way. You know, Pat, it's a pretty good performance, and you made some good points. I don't want an extension. I'm going to bet on myself this season, and I'm going to show you. No, I'm just saying. There is a chance. Whatever you want to put it, Big O, 5%, 4%, 2%, 0.5%. I'm saying if that plays out, I'm willing to go there. We always talk about a hungry player. We always talk about contract years. You've seen it in football and hockey and baseball and the NBA. Hey, if Jimmy wants to play in a contract year, I'm all in for that. I got the popcorn. I'm sitting there. I'm enjoying it because he'll play through every injury. He'll play through every personal absence. He'll play himself in the playoffs, whether he has to go out there with one crutch or not, because it'll mean that much. So if Jimmy's agent is truly saying what he's saying, that Jimmy loves it in Miami, that he wants to finish his career here, that Heat culture suits him better than anyone else, hey, that opportunity is there also. I would love to see all in Jimmy Butler. And now, Big O, you're saying you don't think Jimmy has it anymore. Doesn't have the lift, doesn't have the bounce. But I'm going to tell you.
I know he has the lift or the bounce, but he won't have it for 70 games, 75 games.
And what I'm willing to tell you, if he's motivated.
I believe now it's impossible for his body to play 70, 75 games in the regular season and play in the playoffs. I don't believe his body can ever hold up again. And that's why he paces himself, because he knows his body is done.
What if Jimmy Butler next season plays 72 games? That's the number Pat put out there. What if he makes the All-Star game? What if he makes an All-NBA team? What if he leads the Heat at least into the second round of the playoffs? What I'm saying is, with that window of June 30th, 2025, there's also the opportunity for that. I do believe paying players for past services rendered when they go above and beyond. So we can also wait to see how that plays out. Now, all of that said,
my man, you already did it this year and the next 2 years. And you didn't get any results this year, and you're not really going to get any more results with this guy the way he's playing. So
we'll have to wait and see on that.
Like Riley said yesterday, the last contract, we gave it to him. That was the message. Like, no, bro. We gave you your deal the last time to say thank you. There's no more of that. I love the way he approached it yesterday. That was the message. Like, no, bro, we gave it to you last time. This time, no. You want it. You got to give us what we need now. And that's why the trade is the saving grace. Do you believe the Mark Stein report that they want Paul George, but if they don't get Paul George, they'll get Butler? Do you believe that? Is there any truth to that?
I think that's valid speculation, except for the fact that Paul George, his entire career, worked his way back home to Southern California. Just like Kawhi Leonard spent his entire career working his way back to Southern California. Guys want to be where they are. Yes,
Right.
winning matters. Yes, being competitive matters. But being comfortable every night you drive home from a game or every afternoon you drive home from practice, that matters also. There might be a great opportunity for Orlando Alzugaray in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But I got a feeling you'd rather drive home to your house in Miami and do that, so we all make those choices. I don't see Paul George to the Sixers and getting into that crap show as being something that's attractive. I do know this. Jimmy Butler is very, very close with Joel Embiid. They're good friends. I know if Jimmy goes back, Tobias Harris can't be there because of their salary cap numbers. You can't bring back Tobias, who Jimmy mocked when they won that playoff series 2 seasons ago, so you wouldn't have to deal with that. I know that Daryl Morey would sell his soul to get his team to even a conference final. So whether you say Jimmy can be a cancer or cancerous, I think he would deal with that also. And they have draft choices. And they have cap space. And you know what the best way to clean up the Miami Heat cap sheet is? To send out $50 million Jimmy Butler for maybe $20 million in return contracts. All of a sudden, you can reward the efforts of a Caleb Martin, of a Haywood Highsmith, of the good soldiers who have done everything you have asked for them, and then you wait. And this whole thought of the Heat are never getting another star, the Heat always get a star. Sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes it's the long wait between Shaq and LeBron. Sometimes it's the longer wait between LeBron. You could say, and even Goran, and who they got who wanted his way there. There will be another player. This team is not going away. And one thing, and this was raised in the news conference, I thought was important, Pat Riley addressed Eric Spoelstra's extension. And what we have now is a new face of the franchise. Because you know what, Big O? You even heard the respect the Celtics gave Eric Spoelstra when they said, we don't care that the Heat have a diminished roster. We're worried about Spoelstra because he's damn good. Players want to play for Eric Spoelstra. No state income tax, it's a bonus. Heat legacy, it's a bonus. They have all that. But there is a new face of the franchise in town, and that's Eric Spoelstra, Olympic assistant coach. He'll be working with a lot of those guys in Paris this summer. He already worked with them in the Philippines last summer. So the Heat have it all lined up if they move Jimmy Butler. I woke up this morning and I said to myself, we can do this on our Accurate Pembroke Pines report every week. Right now, I'm 50-50 on whether Jimmy is here next season. And I got a feeling as our Accurate Pembroke Pines reports continue through May and June, I think that might even go up a little.
Oh, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. We're headed for a divorce is good. It's time. It's kind of run its course.
And it could benefit all parties involved. Gets Jimmy back in the playoff race, helps the Heat reset, gets rid of a problem, reestablishes the culture. You could sort of, this is one of those, both sides are amicable. They're going to share custody of the children, and they're going to move forward, and they reach an agreement that no one disparages the other, although I think that's really hard for Jimmy to do.
But this is the most important thing out of all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, I'm not talking to you, Ira, because you're going to know what I'm about to say. Do you want a star? Okay, stop with the bullshit. And the problem why you don't get a star over the last couple of years is you have no ammo. You have no ammo. And so by trading Jimmy, guess what you're about to get? A bunch of ammo. And so now, in the next year or two, you're going to build up an armory of ammo. And so now, instead of you trying to make a move now, Riley told you yesterday we can possibly make a move and deplete our bench. And he's basically telling you, I'm not trading Jovic and Jaquez now. Now that I got to go find a star. So I need to go the other way. I need to unload Tyler somehow. I need to definitely unload Jimmy so I could go get me a star the other way with cap space. And then I still have my young guys that we're developing. And all of a sudden now I have a deep team, because he mentioned it also with the big three, how he sat there in that meeting with LeBron looking at each other and said, I have to build a deeper team. So he's kind of explained to you what the history is and what makes them succeed and what makes them fail and all of that. So he basically told you, dude, I'm not sitting here and trading everything that I have to go get a star, and then I have nothing to support him. And here I am, Melo with the Knicks again. You know, that's what we're watching, Melo with the Knicks. You trade him from Denver, and he's got nothing. So I kind of understand that. So this trade may actually help you get that next star because you're actually getting some ammunition now.
Well, and I think more than cap space, because that's still illusory with Bam's extension. I think it's the draft choices you get. That all of a sudden you're one of those teams. You have 2 of your own, 3 from Philadelphia. You have this whole, and you know what? And then if you have to throw in a Jaquez or a Jovic, but not both, you can do that also. So you can say, okay, here's a salary in Tyler or Terry. You know, it's almost like one of those like old Chinese menus, column A, column B, and column C. Okay, from column A, you take a salary. You can take Terry, you can take Tyler. From column B, you take a young prospect. You can take Jaime or Nikola. And from column C, you can take 3 draft choices. That's how NBA trades are made these days. So what the Heat need to do is replenish each of those columns. Column B is there. Young, intriguing prospects, Jovic and Jaquez. Column A is there. You might not have liked the Robinson, the Herro, and the Rozier contract being taken on. But those are sweet spot numbers from 17 million to 30 million that you can package in a deal. And then you need column C, the draft choices. You don't have them now. You can get them through Jimmy. That starts your reworking package.
Right, exactly. That's why, to me, I understand Riley. Oh, I'll never rebuild and we'll retool. And I get all of that. But, man, we've had so much success down here. You've done more than enough. You've been super successful in this run here with Jimmy. Even if you haven't won the chip or whatever, it's been more than successful, okay? More than we ever dreamed of. It's all right if you take a step back or two. In the process, I find it exciting that you're developing.
Okay, but you have to say that to me every week. We're on next season with the accurate Pembroke Pines report for this reason. Let's say you take Jimmy out for assets. You're probably starting Jaime Jaquez Jr. in his place. Big O, are you going to be okay with a 42 and 40 record, 43 and 39 next season, if that's what happens? Because let's face it, right now, from Jimmy Butler, even in his diminished state, it's still a step back down to Jaime as he sort of moves up a little bit. The Heat will not be as good of a team if you're offloading Jimmy Butler for assets. You have to accept that. They went 46 and 36 this season. They'll come down 43, maybe 41 and 41. Are you willing to accept that for a year or two if you see a future?
I have zero issues with that because I'm the guy that keeps telling you they're going to keep failing on getting stars because they don't have the ammunition, because they've made so many bad decisions in the last 10 years. You know, I explained this prior to this show last week. You look at the Heat blueprint the last 10 years, it's completely different than the blueprint of the first 20 years. The first 20 years was about really acquiring real stars. They have not been able to do that the last 10 years. And they were only lucky to get Jimmy because of Dwayne Wade. But outside of that, they had to pray that Damian Lillard wanted to become a dick in order to get traded here. That's not in his DNA, and he ends up getting shipped to Milwaukee because Miami didn't have the sexy things to trade. And that's been their problem for the last few years. Every time we keep thinking about whale, fishing, you always fall short. And why? Because you don't have the ammunition. We keep lying to ourselves here in Miami. They were already starting. Well, they're going to go out and try to get a whale. No, you're not. You don't have anything to get a whale, bro. You're not going to get shit. Stop it with that already. You got to take a step back to go get that whale and take a step forward. You took he even talked about it, the 2 years where this is what you're talking about. You're with Rasul Butler and Dwayne Wade, and you're winning 42 games, and you're barely getting in the playoffs. But in the process, you're creating cap space, and you're getting ready for 2010. We were patient then with that. Why can't we do that again?
If you're patient, you can. The difference is what happened before 2010 was a single championship and the unknown of being a legacy franchise. The Miami Heat have raised the bar of expectations. When you raise the bar of expectations, you add that burden to your team that, hey, they've been in the finals 2 of the last 4 years going into this season. We expect that. If you tamp those down and you have a reasonable fan base, you can. If expectations, because of winter misery, Pat Riley, have put your team in a different place, that's when it becomes a bit harder.
Yeah, we had winter miserable Pat Riley in 2008 and 9, and we were patient and we understood what they were trying to do. let's be smart fans now and let's understand what they're trying to do. And if you're able to move Jimmy, now you're acquiring assets that you need in order to go and get a younger star that is more available to you throughout the year, because Philly's going to trade for him and they're going to find out he's not going to be available to them like they thought that he would be. You know what I mean? So to me, this is the best way out for the Miami Heat. We're in a rut where we're watching them just chase their tail, and I give Stan Van. By the way, I love Stan Van Gundy because what he said last week, where they were putting too much expectation on constantly on Eric Spoelstra, that's exactly what I've been saying. They've been riding Eric Spoelstra's coattails here for years. They're not giving him enough, and they're asking him to be a miracle worker every single year. When you gave him enough, he'll win you titles. When you don't give him enough, don't sit here and, I heard some people tell me this year that they thought Eric Spoelstra underachieved. I feel like punching you in the face if you tell me that. Seriously. I feel like punching you in the face if you tell me Eric Spoelstra underachieved considering the situation that man is in. I mean, give me a break. This guy is a god, bro. And what he does every year, are you kidding? For him to win a game in the Celtics series was just absolutely amazing. Look, watch Cleveland and Orlando. Unimpressive. 7 games where they all won their home games. They're no threat whatsoever. I wouldn't fear any of those two in the playoffs right now. They can't even win a road game. I'd fear Eric Spoelstra because he can win a road game with 5 slapdicks.
I got nothing.
I'm serious, man. I can't say enough about Eric Spoelstra. And that's why I want them to take this step back, to take a step forward and help this man.
Absolutely.
Give him what he needs to win a title, dude. Stop giving him chicken shit and asking him to make chicken salad every year, dude. It's just wrong, bro. It just is. That's all I'm saying. And I'm glad they re-signed him. Well, you don't want to comment on that?
No, it's all there. Eric Spoelstra, great coach, got in less than he could to compete for a championship, but also enough to compete in the Eastern Conference Finals for 3 of the previous 4 years, make the NBA Finals the previous 2. Let's not denigrate so many efforts of players also. Yes, he hasn't been given the great roster, but let's not sell short players like Caleb. Let's not sell short players like Bam and Caleb Martin and Jaime Jaquez and the growth of Jovic. The players have something to do with it also. They've, for the most part, found the right players with the right abilities and the right attitudes. So I think you have to factor that in also.
Yeah, but he gets a dunk in and says, no, I need more out of you. And he gets even more out of, and he makes Duncan a player that we all like, wow, okay, now this guy is a player now, not just a shooter. He's a player. All right, one more thing before I let you go. The hero stuff. Somebody had to say it inside the building, and he's the only guy that can say it. The question is, how's Herro going to handle the fragile comment?
He's had to handle everything. He's gotten dumped on so often because of people think because he wants to be a star and his appearances and his clothes. Tyler's fine with all that. He compartmentalizes. He also appreciates criticism that is constructive. And if it's a mandate from Pat Riley to get your body and get your build and get your calorie intake and get your weight and get everything up there, I think he's a guy who it resonates with. I think Jimmy Butler might be more like, yeah, whatever, Pat. I'm off to get some coffee beans in Colombia. I think it'll resonate with Tyler. I think Tyler cares. I think Tyler loves basketball. I think Tyler loves succeeding. I think Tyler loved having his moment, even though it was a struggle in the playoffs, of being a leading man. So I think when you issue Tyler a challenge, I think Tyler's ready to answer it, just like when Pat Riley told him, you aren't gifted a starting role, you have to earn it. So Tyler Herro, that offseason, that training camp, went out and earned it. I think a challenge is perfect for Tyler Herro.
I got to challenge you here on this. Because, as you know, I've been saying, bring his ass off the bench. And you kept battling with me about, they might be worried about his feelings if they send him to the bench because he's been dying to be a starter. Now you're telling me that he can compartmentalize and handle all of that, when deep down inside, I think we all feel the same way that UD does, because I felt that way before UD. He's a sixth man. That's where I like him as his role. And I think a lot of people are that way. You constantly told us that they would be worried about his feelings if they sent him to the bench. And I said, to the hell with his feelings.
I don't think he deserved a demotion, but I like what Pat Riley said yesterday. He's a starter in this league. He's a star, but it's up to Erik Spoelstra. And this roster has not been fully explored since the Terry Rozier trade. They will have an offseason. I think it's a lot easier for Spo to go then, okay, Terry's here now, Tyler. The mix is different. We're going to move in this direction. Again, it's an Erik Spoelstra thing, so I can understand that. But Tyler was rightfully given his chance to be a starter. Tyler Herro was great in Game 2 against Boston when there was no one else around him. Tyler also showed he's not quite a leading man. But you know what? If you're going to complain about all that's been not put around Jimmy Butler and what they haven't necessarily given him, you can look at Tyler, too, where he's been forced to do maybe a little bit more than maybe his pedigree. I think this whole thing gets put back in the cauldron. Erik Spoelstra stirs it up, like you said, with his great coaching, and he'll find the best role for everyone involved, and Spo's decision will be final.
But Ira, yeah, they put more on your plate, and it's up to you to become a better player and handle it. So then if you can't handle it, then now we know what you are, because didn't we just do that to Duncan? Hey, Duncan, no, sorry, bro. Yeah, no, we know you're a great shooter. We know you're one of the best in the entire planet, not just the NBA. But guess what? We need you to learn how to run off without the ball. We need you to be able to dribble. We need you to be able to pass. We need you to be able to defend. We need you to be able to rebound. Okay, coach, let me go into the workroom, into the gym, and let me go work on it. And guess what? Duncan came out, took the challenge, became a better player, took on bigger responsibility.
And I think Tyler would take the challenge also, the way it was phrased by Pat Riley and the way Erik Spoelstra can get the most out of you.
You better.
To be determined.
You better, but that's why I'm saying I'm not going to give him an excuse and say, oh, well, we're asking him to do too much. Well, wait a minute, bro. That's kind of part of the game. Let's go. You need to take on more responsibility. Duncan did it. I need you to do it. Hey, Jaime Jaquez will be taking on more responsibility next year. Hopefully Jovic will be taking on more responsibility. That's kind of part of the growth process with him. It's almost like we've babied him a little too much at times. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that, but I know that everything is going to get reset this summer. That I would agree with.
All right. What do you got going on the Sentinel? Start off
the story just now, they're going to name Defensive Player of the Year later today, 6:30 p.m. Bam's one of the 3 finalists. I'm pretty sure it's going to Rudy Gobert. But of all the stories about when Wright didn't go right this season, Bam really was solid, took over as captain for UD, anchored the defense, stepped up forward a little more with his offense, his three-point shot. So I wrote about how when you're looking at everything that came out of the season, you have to look at Bam and say, hey, this was another step forward.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapy and catch his exceptional work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, as always, have a terrific week. We'll catch up next Monday, sir.
Next week on our accurate Pembroke Pines Report. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir. Hour number 2 of the Big O Radio Show is next.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.